Hi, I'm Susan Hall, and I'm Vice President of Business Development and Performance Improvement with Strategic Enhancement Group. And today I'm with two of my dear friends and colleagues, Bob Parks, who is Senior Partner at Strategic Enhancement Group, and also Jeff Filipski, who is Senior Performance Improvement Consultant. And gentlemen, you represent about 90 years of experience in sales management, senior and executive management, coaching, and consulting. So you've seen a lot. And here's my question. Selling today is more complex, more detailed, and more competitive than ever before. Success requires a new generation of tools to manage complex selling. So in your opinion, what is the best way to handle this new reality?
Well, basically, I think, Susan, the answer is to manage your opportunities. Have a process for planning and winning strategic sales opportunities. Usually, the larger strategic opportunities have a longer sales cycle, they have tough competition, and they have multiple people making the buying decision.
So tell me a little bit about what this process you describe actually could look like.
Well, first you need to systematically evaluate each sales opportunity. We use a opportunity evaluation worksheet, and it helps us answer 9 critical questions in 3 very important areas. So first, we ask the question, should we even pursue this opportunity?
Right.
And given the time and money that each opportunity uses, we need to know what's the client's business initiative? Do they have the budget to do this project? What is the compelling reason for doing this project or buying our product? Second, we need to know, can we efficiently and effectively compete for this opportunity? Does the client see us as a viable supplier for this product or service? Do we have the sales and implementation resources required? And what's the specific business value of our solution? And then thirdly, can we reasonably expect to win this opportunity? What is our ability to impact the client's decision process? Are we credible with the client's executives, and do we have their support? And then finally, are we aligned with the relevant executives in the organization? So then based on these answers, we can determine if we should proceed with sales planning and begin spending time and money on this opportunity or not.
Those are amazing questions. So, Jeff, I'm curious from your perspective, what are some of the considerations in understanding how a decision is actually going to be made?
Well, traditionally, typical questions that are asked are, who else is involved in making the decision? What people will be involved in the evaluation? Who has the budget control for the decision? What will be the most important criteria? And who else are you evaluating? What are the pros and cons? You know, what's interesting is that many of the questions are usually discovered through the discovery process as you're getting familiar with the needs and the wants of the customer. What can cause issues in many sales processes is that missing information is usually a little bit more difficult to get because salespeople don't adequately plan their calls strategically.
So my experience is that in all companies, there's that formal decision-making process, but then there's that informal decision-making process, and there are always multiple stakeholders involved. I know that many salespeople get blindsided because they make assumptions about who the decision makers are. So can you talk a little bit about the different roles that salespeople should be on the lookout for?
A lot of salespeople trip up on this. A typical formal process usually involves the following people: approver, or those who have the financial or budget power to purchase the solution, the decision maker, or the person that has the formal responsibility for the implementation of the new product or system, and that could be delegated to. Evaluators are the people that look at the specifications of the solution and how it may be implemented. They can also be implementers. And then the owner is the people who ultimately roll it out, maintain it, problem solve it, and use it. They may not always be on the evaluation team, but their opinions count. These people can come from different departments, and some people may have multiple roles. Many salespeople cover these areas fairly well, as they are usually well defined by the level of authority and follow an organizational chart to some degree.
That's a lot to know about, isn't it? What about the informal decision-making process?
Well, one area that is not usually covered or discovered in questioning is, unless planned for, is that the informal decision criteria and who has the influence inside the account. These influencers are not readily obvious and can be at various levels in the organization and carry different levels of influence on the decision maker, regardless of what level they are at in the organization. Understanding that level of influence is important, and whether they are aligned politically with the approver, decision maker, or evaluator. Many times owners can be influencers in the informal decision-making process. 4 categories for influencers are: sponsor, someone who totally supports the solution you're proposing. They typically endorse behind closed doors. We sometimes call them our coach. Supporter is someone who's favorable towards the solution compared to others. They may or may not support the solution in private. They may be swayed from their position. And neutral, they do not have an opinion when comparing the competition. They may support the status quo or go with the majority. And lastly is that competitive sponsor, someone who supports a competitor's solution and is vocal in their support. It is critical to find these informal roles and not only understand the influence that these informal roles have, but what level of influence that each person has inside the account. The level of influence can be determined by the capabilities of the individual, their value to the organization in their role, who they're connected to outside of work, and lastly, do they contribute to the direction of the organization within their assigned area of responsibility. All of these things should be considered so you can fully ascertain the sales situation and markedly increase your chances of success on your next sales opportunity. Purposeful planning prevents surprises as you move the process forward.
So we've talked about the importance of understanding both the formal and the informal decision-making process. And we've also discussed the different types of influencers and roles that clients have in this decision-making process. In our next video, we'll take a deeper dive into how to develop your sales strategy and also your value proposition to put you in a more favorable position to differentiate and win business that's good for both you and your client. If you're interested in helping your sales team close a higher percentage of proposals, reach out to us at strategicenhancementgroup.com.